Good morning. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody is well. I'm freezing. Where's that coming from? Change there. Hoping that you've got lots of questions for me today. Please excuse the chaos behind me. We're all in full pregnancy mode for this one. Waiting desperately for her to actually go into labour and deliver me these pups. God bless her. She's so uncomfortable. So send over your questions. My name is Louise. I am the Honest Midwife, and I'm here ready, willing and able to answer your questions. Trying to think what there is to tell you. Lots of good classes going on this week, as always, working with Your Baby Club and Let's Talk Birth and Baby. So tonight, for anybody who's interested, we have practical parenting. So that's run with myself, and that is all about all the practicalities of having a baby. So everything that happens from the very point that your baby is born. So deliver the placenta, delayed cord clamping, safe sleep, nappies, bathing, looking after the cord, all sorts of stuff. It's a really good class. That's at 6:30 tonight. This weekend we have Barkers and Babies. That's with Fiona, and that is all about safely introducing your baby to your dog. So it's a really good class. She's a bit barking, excuse the pun. So that's that. And then I've also got a wellbeing workshop this weekend with Mark, who's fabulous, and that's all about looking after yourself once you've had a baby and looking after each other, and that's a really good class to do. So that's on Saturday. There's also the free class on Saturday, so for anybody who hasn't done the free class, please do sign up. That's it. So I need some questions. Have we got any questions? Send me questions. I've started outdoor swimming. Who does that? Me. And that's why I've got myself cold, because this morning I went down to the seafront. Honestly, seafront, me in the water, fucking freezing. Went down to the seafront this morning and went for a swim, and then got out and waited for the next group of ladies to come for a swim. So I got really cold right to the middle. So I've got like my warm socks on and everything because I'm cold. So that's what I've been up to. Outdoor swimming, looking after Margot, and that's it. So I just need some questions, which I've not seen any. So I'm wondering whether Jazz has got any questions. Never works for me. Somebody just type something in the chat box that I know that it is, that there's no questions there and not, oh, what's that? Comments. Here we go. Bit of a too much information. I love a too much information, Cassandra. I love it. Can you bring on early labour waters for straining on the toilet? No. So what, are you a bit constipated? No, the two areas are not really connected. So, but what I would do is try and do something to ease your constipation. So you go and get some fibre gel or something like that. That might just help to ease things through. But no, you won't break your waters. I was 7 weeks pregnant and wondered what will happen as I have diastasis recti and a hernia. So nothing will happen as such, but it's something that once you've had your baby, you will want to be rectifying and working on. We have a postnatal recovery workshop with a physiotherapist. I would definitely recommend that you go on to that to help you. It might even be worth going or touching base with our physiotherapist, Michelle. If you go onto Instagram, if you've got, not that one, hang on a minute. If you have Instagram, oh, it's done it again. Oh, I can't do it. At Michelle Physio on Instagram, or drop me a message and I can pass it on to Michelle. She may have some better advice for you because it's really a physiotherapy therapist that would be able to help. From how old do you receive children in kindergarten or school? It's not really my area of expertise, but in the UK you get funding from the term after their 3rd birthday, I believe, but it's not an area that I'm an expert in, so you would need to check that out elsewhere. What does it mean if my fundal height is near the 90th centile? I don't really think your fundal height has any bearing, really. Well, that's not fair to say. Basically, we measure your bump, don't we, and we plot it on a chart, and it's on the 90th centile. That's what you're saying. So it would indicate that your baby is on the bigger than average size. But if the midwife has any concern about that, what she would do is refer you for a growth scan just to see whether there's any concern with growth. And quite often people go for the growth scans and they say actually the growth is normal, because that measurement is really subjective. So I could measure one day and someone else could measure differently the next day, because we're all slightly different. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but you might be referred for a scan. Is there anything I can do to help with hip pain? I wake up crying in the morning and how bad it is. I have severe pelvic girdle pain and the physio hasn't helped. Sammy, definitely do our pelvic girdle workshop. Let me just find you the link for it. Michelle gets really great results, really quite instantly, just from doing a few changes. And although we do refer to physio in the NHS, the physiotherapists are not always specialist women's physiotherapists, and Michelle specialises in pelvic physiotherapy, so she gets some great results. I'm just putting the link up for you there, and I'll just try and find out when the next one is for you. Oh, there's not one up there. Right, okay, I will sort that by the end of the day, well, within an hour when I get off here. We'll get a date up there. It will be soon. I can probably tell you when the next date is. Let's have a look for you, because she gets some really good. So the next one is on the 20th of June. So not too far off, but I would definitely try that, Sammy, because she's an expert. She's going to give you some really good hints and tips. I don't know what Nikki was saying. I had a hernia done about 5 years ago, but I've read it can make labour more painful and long. I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think there's lots of things that can happen earlier on in life, but if they had any concerns, they would advise you to go for a cesarean section. I wouldn't have thought it was going to give you any major problem. Nikki knew I was going to have if, and that's all I've got there. And a big flurry of questions there, and then there's none there. So do keep your questions coming. If your first child was born premature, does it make it more likely the next one would be, and would it mean more scans? And are you more likely to have gestational diabetes if you had it in your first? So the first question, if your first one was born premature, does it make it more likely? There is a slightly increased risk that your second one will be premature, but it doesn't always follow that that is the case. But you are at a higher risk. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will have more scans, unless the reason that you were premature was because your cervix shortened too soon. So they may scan to see what's going on with your cervix. They may recommend a cervical stitch. I don't know how far you're on in your pregnancy. So you will be monitored more closely, I would have thought. In answer to your second question, are you more likely to have gestational diabetes if you had it with your first child? Yes, you are. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean you will, but there is a more statistically higher chance that you will. So all the more reason to really keep on top of your diet. Right from, don't wait to be diagnosed with it. Try and keep on top of it. Try and keep it at bay. Brooke is 38 weeks, second child, was induced for the first time round. Really hope I don't need to be induced again. Any ways to avoid this or any advice? There isn't really, Brooke. I mean, it's just one of those things. Sometimes they come early, sometimes they don't. The best way to sort of bring labour on really is to be relaxed, to do things that promote that release of oxytocin, which is the hormone that we need. And that is about not being stressed, staying nice and calm, that sort of thing. You could also try eating dates. About 80 grams of dates every day from about 34 weeks. That may help. There is some small but good studies that suggest it may help. But other than that, there's not really that much you can do. After giving birth almost a year ago, nobody visited you or checked all the sticks that I had. Is this normal? Can it be any consequence after natural birth? I don't know what the sticks are, my lovely. So could you rephrase that, because that doesn't make sense? We'll come back to that one. How many C-sections can a person have? Well, I mean, in theory, if people keep getting pregnant, we're not going to refuse you a C-section. I think generally after sort of the third one, doctors would prefer that we maybe didn't have any more, but that's not to say people don't go on and have more. It's a conversation that you would need to have really with your consultant, because every woman is different, and the scar tissues are different. There, you know, it may be that the third one they didn't have any bother. It may be that they're like, God, there was so much scar tissue to get through with this. It was a difficult cesarean section. So I would find out what the cesarean section was like. Right, let's just go to Nikki. Nikki, I still can't see where your question is. It's not that I'm ignoring your question, but I can't see it. So can you're not getting ignored. So it's on the 10th. Right, Nikki, you need to write the full question, the question in full, because it's not there on my thing, my love. I'm 16 and pregnant. What is the best pain relief for me? Right, Pauline, what I would do is I would definitely sign on to the first labour and birth class, which is free. It's on a Saturday or a Monday. So there's one this Saturday. At 16 weeks, I'd say you're probably still a bit early to do it. I would probably wait till you're about 22, 23 weeks. But in that, we talk about all the different pain reliefs you can have. And it just depends on what sort of thing you want, whether you're high risk, low risk, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite a wide question that you've asked, but there are lots of options ranging from gas and air, pethidine, right the way through to an epidural. So do that workshop and you will get loads and loads of information, and it's free and it's good. People like it. Right, Nikki knew. Don't just write one sentence that you're getting ignored. Just write the whole question in a block, and then I can answer your question. But there's no question there, my love. I'm seeing your statements of I'm getting ignored. People, please let her answer me, but I'm not seeing a question. So I'm looking out for it. Chanel's now saying, and Nikki's unsure about having it. About having what? I honestly don't know what you're talking about. I'm looking all the way back and I just don't have it. So if you could, somebody write the full question and I'll be able to answer. I'm just wondering if I need to buy the Pregnant Care vitamins, because I have some given to me, but I ran out. Well, Ashley, you're clever because I don't know how you're seeing that, but I'll answer that question. I'm just wondering if I need to buy Pregnant Care vitamins, as I have had some given to me, but I've run out, and I'm just wondering if I will have to buy some more as I'm on benefits. You don't need to necessarily, Chloe, have to go for Pregnant Care. What you do need to be taking if you're before 12 weeks is folic acid, which isn't really that expensive, a couple of quid probably. I wouldn't have thought it's that much more expensive. You don't need to be taking pregnancy vitamins. As long as you're having a healthy, balanced diet, you don't need the rest of it, but you do need folic acid until you're 12 to 14 weeks pregnant. Right, are you the COVID vaccine whilst pregnant? So this is not a straightforward yes you should, no you shouldn't, because it's a really personal choice. It's not for any health professional to say that you should have it and that you have to have it. And the general feeling is that whatever you decide, we will support. So I did an Instagram live a couple of weeks ago. It's still on my Instagram. It's a really interesting listen for any of you that are wanting information on this, whether it be because you're breastfeeding or you're pregnant or whatever your reason for questioning the COVID vaccine or questioning whether you should have it. There is an Instagram live there where I talk to, excuse me, Dr. Caldwell, who's a consultant obstetrician, and we are literally debating it. He's not trying to convince people. He's debating with me. We get lots of questions in asking should we, shouldn't we have it. My personal feeling is that yes, I would have it. So I would have it. Doesn't mean to say I think you should, but I would. Because the research that we have now, which is becoming quite, we're getting more and more data all the time, is suggesting that if you do contract COVID in later pregnancy, there is a significant risk to going into premature labour. So in my mind, the benefits outweigh any risks. My Instagram is at The Honest Midwife. But it's a good Instagram live to have a little look at and make your decision. But personally, if it was me, I would have it. Having said that, I haven't had my vaccine. And that's not because I haven't been invited for it. I have. I've been being nagged to have it by the NHS, but I haven't had it. And my personal reason is that I had COVID in November last year and I was really quite poorly. And I've heard, and again, it's anecdotal, that people who've had COVID and then go and have the vaccine seem to have a bit of a worse reaction to it, and they're a bit off colour for a few days. And you guys know I'm very, very busy. I don't have time to be off colour for a few days at the minute. So my plan is to get the puppies here, get them out of the way, have some time off in the summer, and then have my vaccine. But it's not because I don't think that the vaccine is safe. I do have faith in the vaccine. Hope that answers your question, Nikki. I don't know why sometimes it's not you, Nikki, because questions just bloody disappear. I'm sure that I miss everybody's questions all the time. Okay, so anybody else got any questions for me? Trying to think what questions I've had this week. Anybody who's interested, I've had a message this morning from somebody asking about Bell's palsy, which is basically paralysis in the face during pregnancy. I'm going to be doing a post about that. It's a very interesting topic, and I'm sure not very nice for anybody who is suffering it. Also, it is quite hard on a sort of daily, regular basis to be thinking about things to write. So if you do have stuff that you want me to write a topic about, please do drop me a message. And it's, you know, it's like, okay, brilliant, I've got a good topic and I can go and write about it. So, you know, if you're sort of thinking, oh, this is happening to me and I can't find any information that I trust or I don't know where it's coming from, let me know and I'll research it if I don't know about it, and I will put something on for you. So Zoe has said she's had both vaccines and baby is thriving. She says to Nikki, they do have leaflet infos with the risks, etc. The doctors, yeah. Anything for a tight tendon from OTC? OTC, that carpal tunnel. I'm going to feel stupid, aren't I? Not sure if you'll know this, but I've also been given some aspirin as I'm short for my weight. Do you know exactly how long I will need to stay on aspirin for? Chloe, they'll probably take you off it about a week before your baby's born. That would be my feeling, that they'll stop you about a week before. But yeah, for the vast majority of your pregnancy, my lovely. I'm going to Google that because I don't know what that is. I'm useless with abbreviations. As soon as I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, of course it is. Let's have a look. There's something to do with carpal tunnel. Over-the-counter medicines. I do it every time. Is that what she means? Over the counter? I think that's what it means. Over the counter. No, but I think I don't know whether it's in your hands, where it is. Again, that's probably physiotherapy that's going to help you much more. If you hemorrhage, I got that question, Nikki. I've got your question. If you hemorrhage after birth, are you more at risk with the next pregnancy? You're probably more at risk of having bleeding after your next pregnancy. Well, you are, but that is really countered, because if you had quite a significant bleed after your first baby, we're ready for you on your second. We're like, you're not catching us out again. So what we will do is we'll probably, just in anticipation of that bleeding, we would probably advise we put a cannula in your hand. I probably wouldn't, because I can cannulate quite quickly. But a midwife that's a bit more tentative around cannulation, everybody knows what they're doing, but some people, I'm just like, oh, in you go, I can do it sort of with my eyes shut. I'm a bit of a vampire. There are other things I'm not quite as skilled at, but that's one my colleagues were like, oh, go and get Louise's on, she'll do it. So I'm good with the veins. So I might just think, oh, well, if she starts bleeding, I'll whack a cannula in and away we go. But some other midwives might think, do you know what? I want that in place because I don't want to be doing it under stress. So they might put a cannula in whilst you are in labour, so that once your baby's here, they put up the drugs that we use to stop bleeding, and we sometimes put them up before it starts. So it's like, let's just put everything in place. And so yes, you may be at an increased risk of having more bleeding, but it's managed in a far calmer way than it would be when you had your first bleeding, but we weren't expecting. I hope that helps, Laura. If you're not gaining weight in pregnancies, that's scary or worrying. It's not necessarily. I think if you are underweight and you're not gaining weight, then that's more of a concern. If you're carrying a bit of weight before you get pregnant, not gaining weight is not a bother. And in actual fact, we would probably, depending on what your BMI is, so someone like me who was really quite overweight, they'd be like, well, just don't put any weight on because there's enough padding round you, my love, to see this baby. Whereas if I was a lovely slim trimming min, we would expect to see some weight gain. But it doesn't necessarily, I mean, you shouldn't be expecting to put loads and loads of weight on until, well, even then, in your last trimester. And even then, it's about a stone and a half right the way through. So I honestly wouldn't worry about it. Both my mum and granny have had C-sections. Does that mean I will have one too? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You might labour much easier. Your baby may be smaller. You know, there may be 101 reasons why they had cesarean sections. And interestingly, my mum had me and my sister naturally, and I had both my children by cesarean, and my sisters had one natural and one cesarean. So it doesn't necessarily follow. Polyhydramnios, have a growth scan with the doctor's appointment next week. What will change with regards to labour and birth plan? I'm 36 weeks. Well, it depends on, Latonia, what your birth plan was in the first place. If your birth plan was to have a home birth, they're probably going to recommend that that's not a good idea, because they'll want to continuously monitor your baby throughout labour. We'll also be wanting to make sure that we really check you over thoroughly if your waters break naturally, because there is an increased risk of the cord coming down in front of the baby, which is not great. So they'll keep an eye on you for that. Equally, so they'll probably, the advice is probably going to be that you have your baby on the obstetric-led unit, on the labour ward, basically, rather than a birth centre. But that doesn't mean to say that it all has to be all bells and whistles. You know, you can still have it quite nice. You can take in little plug-in candles and, you know, make it a nice environment. It doesn't have to feel really clinical, but it's good to be in the right place where all the monitors are, so we can really keep a close eye on your baby. Hope that helps. When will I feel my baby kick? Because I'm 13 weeks and 3 days. Not for a while yet, Chloe. You got a while yet, my love. Generally, I would say around about 18 weeks is a good rule of thumb. Even though, saying that, if you said to me you were 22 weeks, I wouldn't be hugely concerned if you hadn't felt your baby. So by the time you are 24 weeks, there should be walloping you a good one. Nikki is 20 weeks and about 12 and a half stone. So in that case, if you're not putting any weight on, I wouldn't worry at this stage. At 20 weeks, you're doing really well. That's great. That's actually really good that you're not putting weight on, because your baby is this big. That big, maybe. So we wouldn't be, you know, there's no need for you to put lots of weight on. So it's a good thing. Well done, you. I wish I could have said the same. I was enormous. I did eat a lot. I had a penchant for going to Marks and Spencer's and buying mashed potato and packets of ham in the lunch hour. Scoffing it. That was with Jack. Put 5 stone on with Jack. With Isabel, I craved pitta with pate, which you're not really allowed, but God stopped me. Couldn't. With feta cheese and salad. Put half a stone on with her. Big difference, because I just skimmed the pate. It was very good. A little bit of feta, a bit of salad. Jack, mashed potato. It was great. So yeah, so yes. No, you just need to, I'm busy, I'm on a live. You just love kids. Will I still be able to have a water birth with polyhydramnios? Is it true that they may want to induce early if your waters haven't gone? It is true they will do it, and they will not recommend that you have a water birth, because you've got all that fluid, and it's, you know, the vast majority of times people with polyhydramnios sail through. There's no issue at all, but it does come with some complications at times, and so the idea would be to really monitor your baby throughout labour by having you strapped to the CTG machine. That doesn't mean to say, my lovely, that you can't move around, you can't sit on a birthing ball, but they will probably advise against a birthing pill. Hadlets, what to expect from my checkup? Your checkup in terms of your pregnancy checkup, they won't do anything. They won't, you know, the fact that you've had, you know, cervical gynecological treatments prior to pregnancy, I wouldn't have thought that they would do anything at that. At 20 weeks next week, what do I expect from a scan? And also after getting cervix checked for having that, they may look at the scan and say, just make sure that the cervix is the right length and all that sort of stuff. But other than that, they won't do anything. So polyhydramnios is increased fluid. So people have lots and lots of amniotic fluid. And sometimes it's just something that's happening in the pregnancy is a bit of an anomaly. We don't know why. Sometimes it can be an indication that sometimes there's issues with kidneys or something like that. The vast majority of the case is absolutely fine. There's no issue, but it's just something that we need to have a look on. So Nikki, at your scan, they will just be looking at the cervix just to make sure that at the scan they'll just have a look, make sure it all looks as it should do. But other than that, I wouldn't have thought they were doing much more than that. Yeah, they're just keep an eye on you, my lovely. But brilliant, 20 weeks, happy days, doing very well. I'm impressed, and no weight gain. Go, Nikki. How long do you stay in hospital for, on average, after an elective C-section? So, Laura, it's going to depend on whether they do what's called enhanced recovery. And with enhanced recovery, if everything is like plain sailing, no probs, in, done, no major blood loss, they will get you home the next day. But it does depend on whether they do that within your hospital. But other than that, you might go home 2 nights. You might stay 2 nights. Sometimes if there's more complications, heavier blood loss, feeding issues, you may stay in longer. But on the whole, I would say 2 is generally about the standard. I had too much fluid around the baby. There you go. So Danny had too much fluid. As I said, most of the time it just continues, not a problem. You need to go and dry your hair as well, because Gemma won't be chuffed if it's wet when you get there.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted you to take me to Tesco.
Yes, well, just hurry along.
Can you?
Well, just go and dry your hair.
You just tell me if we're going.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
I love children.
Yeah, you
just delicious. They are delicious.
Right.
You've kept me quite busy. I'm impressed. Well done. I love lots of questions. It makes my life a whole heap easier than sitting here thinking, oh, I don't know what to say. Don't forget, I'm over on Instagram at The Honest Midwife. Give your baby club a follow both on the Instagram and obviously you're here because you're looking at me. Don't forget also, I run a free virtual coffee morning every Tuesday. You can book onto it through the Let's Talk Birth and Baby. I'm just putting the link up there. If you click on parent and baby classes, it's not necessarily a parent baby class, come when you're pregnant. About halfway down, there's one that's called Let's Chat, and it's just run by Zoom, and it's just interactive. Chat to other mums, chat to other expectant parents. It's a really good place to just come, be really safe, and they have a Facebook page as well where you can just sort of bash ideas around, ask questions, and that sort of stuff. Really active little group. So do join us for that. How long exactly will I be in hospital after giving birth, after I have had an epidural? Oh, you said epidural. Oh, no. Yeah, that's it. With an epidural, once you've got feeling back in your legs and you've moved around and you've weed, you can go home generally about the day after, I would say. Yeah, with polyhydramnios, lots of fluid, you will be quite big. Quite big, I would say. But you'll be all right. You'll have great photos. 15 years time, you'll be like, look at the size of me, like a bloody elephant. You'll forget all the moaning that you did. I'm sure you're not like an elephant. Right, ladies, I've got to get Tizzy Ann to the hairdresser's where she's having her hair ombre. Oh my God, if I hear that statement one more time, ombre. And her eyebrows tinted. She wanted extensions. I was like, you're bloody 13. No. So I've got that to do, and then I've got to look after Fanny Ann here. That's it. Right, you've all been ace. Oh, please. Elizabeth said please. Elizabeth, have you got... Oh, bless you, bless you. After a normal birth, I had lots of stitches, but nobody... stitches. After normal birth, I had lots of stitches, but nobody visit or check me. I was wondering if there was any consequences that I should be worried about. Should I get checked? I mean, you should have been checked. And for anybody who's about to have a baby, do make sure, if you see a midwife and they don't say, do you want me to check your perineum? Say to them, could you check my stitches? Could you just have a look? I know it's not what you want people to be looking at, but it's really important. Elizabeth, I would say if you haven't had any ill effects and you feel absolutely fine, then I wouldn't worry. It's not the end of the world. But if you are uncomfortable down there, you need to go back to your GP just to get them to have a look to see whether there is any major issue. Most of the time, if there's anything that we sort of think, oh, well, that could have been different, unless it's causing you lifestyle issues, they would probably wait till you had your next baby and then it would be rectified then. But again, it's very, I'm being very vague here. It would depend on what your circumstances are, my lovely. But yes, you should have been checked. So if you have another baby, get checked again afterwards. And if you are worried or you've got discomfort, go and get checked. Okie dokie. Right, I'm all done here. I'm back next Tuesday on Instagram. Tuesday at 12, I think it is. No, I'm not. Monday at 12 on Instagram at Your Baby Club. So another one of these, lots and lots of questions. So come and join me then. There's usually huge amounts of questions on there. So come and join me then. And if not, have a lovely week. Keep an eye out on my Instagram because I'm hoping there's going to be some pictures of some really cute puppies. Otherwise, I am going to be demented. And have a good week. Enjoy the sunshine, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.